is the Conrad Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Oh, for 5 years. 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today is June the 29th, 2023, and this is episode 331 of the Workshop Podcast. How the hell is everyone out there? Trying something a little bit new. We'll get into that in a minute here. Hey, Byron Roberts, great to have you. The missus and I and the twins are living the life we want to live, and part of that is traveling around, and because of that, I am live streaming from the hotel this evening. Managed to have, if you want to see, microphone and the normal webcam with me. Only thing we don't have is the normal black backdrop, but that's okay. So I hope everybody out there is doing good. Tonight we are working on, or we're going to finish up the content creation episode that we started last Thursday. But before that, we all know the rules. Let's get through the advertisements, things that pay the bills. Now, Thursday evening sponsor is my good brother Joel Riles from Fortress K9. Just messaged me the other day. Says, Tim, I got some hats on the way for you. So you guys will get to see this bald dome covered up once on a blue moon with a Fortress K9 hat. But if you're looking to be motivated, you're looking to have a little bit of an ass kicking, you're looking to fill your ears with get shit doneness, then give Joel a listen over on the Fortress, the Protection Dog podcast, or you can go to fortressk9.com and check him out. He actually donated I think it's an online dog training session to my next announcement, the fundraiser for Jenny Hill. Sunday afternoon, evening, we're going to be doing a live PBS kind of telethon thing. You'll see links in the description. I don't know if I've got it in there yet, but I'll make sure it's there by the end of the show. So you can check out all the cool things that all of the creators have donated that you can bid on to maybe help make Jenny's life just a little more comfortable when she's at home going through what she's going through. Ton of cool stuff. And yeah, give it a shot, guys. Check it out. And don't forget, Sunday evening live stream. It's going to be on my channel, Nicole's channel, and the Survival Podcast, Jack Spirko's channel. Hey, Know Your Joe, great to have you. And finally, I decided on what I'm going to present on at Self-Reliance Festival. I'm going to be presenting on the concept of the poverty mindset. That seems to be my theme for 2023. It seems to be the thing that resonates with the most people whenever we talk about it. So that's what it's going to be. The cool thing is, if you see some of the shorts that are out there right now, I think actually the one that I sent in to Nicole and Letty and all them the other day just went live on all the places and is talking about just that. But you can get tickets, early bird tickets, by August 1st. I believe they're $75 instead of $95. So if you're coming, why not get your tickets ahead of time and save yourself a little bit of money? So with that, guys, it's good to have you here. I really enjoy you, and we're going to make this thing work. This is another one of those. See if we can get that adjusted right there. Testings for when I'm in Tennessee. We're in Edmonton right now for a couple of nights, having some good time. We're getting some mundane prepping things done. We started by getting all the fluids changed in the truck. It's one of those things that costs money, but if you want to keep a vehicle long term, that's what you do. And then tomorrow, off to the dentist, right, hon? Yep, she's over there shaking her head. Nobody likes going to the dentist, but it's one of those things that an ounce of prevention equal a pound to cure. And so hopefully I won't have to partake of the dentist too often. Just go get there, get things cleaned up and move on. Hopefully there's not a lot of cavities, but it's one of those things that you got to do. So with that, let's dive into tonight's main topic. And last week's show was such a big event, or I don't know if that's the right term for it, but we did last week on content creation. And I had so many notes that I thought I really need to do a follow-up episode. And everybody was like, hey, just follow it up next week. And that's kind of what I did. So last week was more on the practical end of things. It was one of those, these are the programs I'm using. This is the process that I'm using. These are the things that I'm learning. And today is going to be a kind of a two-parter. We're going to talk about the principles that I've learned over the last couple of years. And we're going to look back. So it was April of 2022. I did another one of these episodes. I did 20 tips for new creators. And I thought, well, what the hell? Why don't I go back, take a look at that list and see if things have changed or if they're the same or whatever they happen to be. And if they've changed, if they're the same, we'll go back and revisit them and figure out what exactly, see how it goes. So, and if anybody is out there, just let me know if audio and video is working good for you. We did a little test earlier, but you just never really know when you're on a new, what's that? I can hear you fine. You can hear me fine over there though. Yeah. Becky's calling me a loudmouth, guys. I tell you, just an awful thing. So we can get rid of the kids tonight. They're gone for the evening visiting their sister. So it's kind of cool. So anyway, I went back through. We're going to work our way through this list. If you got questions, throw them out as we go along. And yeah, let's work through it. So let's see if we can find the mouse here. Always fun. So the first thing that anybody, and I guess before we even go into the list, a person needs to ask themselves, why in the hell do I even want to be a content creator? You know, do I want it to be a business? Do I want it to, do I want it for me to learn more? Do I want to share my passion with other people? Do I want to help other people? It can be one, it can be all, or it could be something totally different. Hey, Rachel Brown, great to have you. Always says hello, kids, but we're no younger than her. I tell you, good to see you, though. Always love seeing you in the chat. You get any of that? Apparently, over that way, they're getting quite a bit of this Canadian smoke. So it's like when you get the crackhead living above you, and all they do is smoke, and somehow it comes down through the heat vents. Well, that's what you guys are stuck getting. So anyway, I get the first thing is to ask yourself, what in the world? Rachel said, did you just say I can't find the mouse? Yeah, it's a trackpad. I'm on a laptop. So it's working on it, getting it going good here. So yeah, ask yourself why in the world you want to be a content creator. That's what it starts with. And then from there, you need to ask who in the world is your ideal customer. This is something, you know what, I've been giving this advice since day one. I didn't always follow it, but it's one of those things you need to know. And if you're starting a business or you're starting a content creation kind of individual thing, then yeah, you need to know who your ideal customer is. And for me, early on, I started to look at the breakdown of the statistics of who was watching my content, who was listening to the podcast. And, you know, it started out as kind of that 35 to 55-year-old North American male. That's what I said. And, you know, I've hopefully expanded to more than that. But if you don't know who your ideal customer is, you're going to be making content for nobody. But again, I've said it from the beginning, you need to start with a community in mind that doesn't even exist. And part of that community is knowing who the person is that you're putting out the content to. And spoiler alert, almost always your ideal customer is going to reflect yourself. So you sit down and you think, okay, but it's not always the case, because there's times I've talked to entrepreneurs who are like, well, I can't charge that much. I couldn't afford that much. Well, you know what? That's okay, because your customer can, and you want the customer that can afford that. And the same way, you know, for me, if I look at who my ideal customer is for, you know, whether it's the podcast or it's the YouTube channel with the tool reviews. Hey, Haas, great to have you. It's one of those things that, so I guess I would say, you know, you're going to be drawn to the person that you like to listen to. And for me, it's usually middle-aged people. And so my ideal customer would be somebody kind of in their middle age, somebody who's into preparedness, somebody who's self-reliant, somebody who's independent, somebody who really, really wants to start their own business, somebody that likes gear, that likes tech, that likes backup power. Hey, Chuck Peoples, great to have you in here. Any and all of that. But before you get started, and there's a guy on YouTube right now I've been watching a lot of. His channel is called Film Booth. And he talks about sitting down. He writes out entire pages describing who his quote unquote ideal customer is, or who your ideal content consumer would be. Chuck People says, I like bald bearded Canadians. Yeah, my wife does too. Strange thing, isn't it? But yeah, so that's what you got to do, because you know what they say, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. But if you want to build a community, You need to know who you're talking to, even if they don't exist yet, and you need to know who you are making that content for. And before you start even making any videos, any audio, you need to say, okay, who's the person that's going to be listening to this? And eventually they will. Absolutely. Here's the next one. And I said this, and I think I still believe it, but it's not always the case. But expect to not make any money from content at all for at least a year. Be prepared to not make any money. I changed that a little bit. I go from be prepared to, but you certainly can, because I've seen lots of people who have made money early on or reached certain thresholds or benchmarks that they wanted when they got started, but it's not always the case. And so, that's why I tell people it's okay to treat this like a business. It's okay to want to make some money at it. But if you go into it wanting to make money instantly like that, you're probably going to get burnout and not make it to where you want to be. So you need to understand the fact that this is a long-term slog. It typically isn't exponential. And if it is exponential, so if you end up having one video that goes viral, that can be really tricky because you've built an audience, but you haven't built a community. You might have built you may have a whole bunch of people who wanted to watch that single video, but they're not invested in who you are. And you haven't maybe given enough value yet to find people. Byron Roberts says, you mean I can't get rich in the first year? Probably ain't going to get rich in the second year. You're probably not even going to be, Mr. Beast in the third year for any of those out there who know who he is. But yeah, you're really not. But it's one of those things that you absolutely, I've said this along, your time investments like this, you start up here and your money investment, and they intersect eventually, because your time, you really can't find much more time when it comes to creating content. But if you keep investing the time, that's building that nest egg that's eventually going to return more and more and more and more, because you've got this huge back catalog of videos that people keep going back and watching, podcasts that people keep going back and listening to. So, each time somebody finds my podcast, there is a potential of 331 episodes that they can go back and binge their way through. And if they do that, holy crap, all of a sudden you find 2 or 3 new listeners in 1 week, and you get this great big spike in your listenership. So there's all of that. But yeah, so expect to not make any money when you first start out, and that's okay. But it's an investment. You're building. Hey, Letty Lou, good to see you again. That's 2 weeks in a row. You must be excited about content creation. And for those who wonder, tonight, Brian asked me what the hell the show is going to be about. I thought about building a little circle graph, but I'm not that handy with Canva. But last year when I spoke at SRF, my my presentation was called From Content to Currency. And I felt like as I was prepping this, that there was really that third C that's in the middle that I did talk about at Self-Reliance Festival, but it's every bit as important as the other two. So for me tonight, it was from content to community to currency. You really can't have one without the other. It's like love and marriage, but there's 3 of them. That's weird. Anyway, so yeah, that's what it is. You really need to, start by building and putting out the absolute best content you can, which then hopefully thanks, Chuck. I appreciate that. Hopefully builds a community around this. And here's the thing, and I tell you this all the time, creating the content that builds the community you're not doing it just to make money off that, but it's all part and parcel. You start with the content, you build the community around you, you give more value than you're ever going to receive. And then people are like, holy shit, Tim, Nicole, Jack, whoever it happens to be has helped change my life, not because they did anything, but because their words inspired me to get out and get shit done. And so then people are like, hey, yeah, I'd really like to support that dude, that crazy Canadian that is traveling all over the countryside to share his gospel of, preparedness, reparedness, content creation, all of that. So yeah, that's the key. We'll keep talking about it a little bit. When I always started a new job, and I haven't started that many new jobs, but I always knew that the busy work was going to be the hard stuff that's going to get in the way eventually. And so I tried to learn all of the little things. Early on, I tried to learn, hey, where do these tools go? Where does this stock go? How do I do a return? All of that kind of stuff. I would try to learn all the little stuff early because I knew once I got really friggin' busy, I wouldn't be able to do it as much. So early on, respond to absolutely everything until you can't. And I haven't, that's a good one. Haas says, have I got a get shit done patch? I haven't, but I think we're going to have to. I did have I built like a brick shit house, but that's not quite the same as getting shit done. It's a certain type of shit you get done, but maybe not the type you want on a patch. So yeah, respond to everything until you can't. And that's at the point, I guess I'm kind of at now with the YouTube comments. You know, always respond to emails from the community, always respond to as much as I can from within. But the YouTube comments, there's so many now that maybe half of them warrant a response, and you do your best. But yeah, so early on, respond to absolutely everything, because the cool thing is every time you respond to a comment, every time you send an email back, that's a potential piece of content. Almost every time I've responded to somebody's questions and emails, I've turned it into an expert counsel segment for Jack's The Survival Podcast. So yeah, all of that. And Rachel says, has Tim not had a good presentation that I haven't listened to 5 times? Love you, Rach. Always appreciate that. I put a lot of work into those presentations because, you know, if people are willing to come and you know, spend their hard-earned money to be there, and I want to do the absolute best damn presentation I can do. So there's that. So respond to everything until you can't. That's key, because that's where you build the community, because that's where you interact. You know, something simple I talk about this is a little different, but Chris Dixon, that crazy fellow that I didn't know at all from Claire's home down in, you know, south of Calgary, he messaged me and he said, hey, I'm coming through the area. Could we meet up and have coffee? And I could have made the choice of, guess what? I'm not going to talk to that crazy dude or whatever. Anyway, he's not just a member of the community. I mean, he's a guy that I consider one of my closest friends at this point. And that all happened from responding to everything. You just never know who or what, or, you know, the blessings you're going to find by responding. Chuck says, I have done that on all my videos based on your advice. Answer all comments and acknowledge them. Absolutely. I'll even go through, and unless it's a real dickhead comment, I'll hit the thumbs up and I'll hit the heart. So if I hit the heart, they'll at least know, hey, Tim saw that. It's not that, you do. You run out of time on responding. If you sat down and responded to absolutely every comment, you may not be able to make all of the good content you want to. Thank you, Haas. He said, have to say that was a great short on the water pump review you did. So you will notice my review videos have gotten significantly shorter, and I'm going to talk about that when I scroll down here a little bit. So we're going to work through some of these old tips, look back at them, see what's changed. Then I'm going to talk about the things that are most pressing on my brain, the things that I'm most passionate about, and the things that I've changed recently to hopefully, it's going to, you know, sound cheesy, but take the YouTube channel to the next level, because that's where we're heading. I think I may or may not have my first month this month gaining 500 subscribers on the channel. But what's really cool is you can really see it starting to do this. A lot of what I've been doing with TubeBuddy lately is starting to pay off. And yeah, I'm not fingers crossed. It's hard fucking work, and we're doing it. So, all right, next. Where are we here? Make one small change every single week. Sorry if I'm just a little more lost on the notes. Still getting used to this smaller screen with a laptop, but I love it. It's actually really cool. I've talked about it all the time, but it's true. 1% increase every single time. So if you do a podcast, go back and listen to your podcast. Or, hey, Kyle, he made it only 19 minutes in, and he already missed the 10-minute segment I did on Tiger King. So you'll have to go back on the replay, Kyle, and watch that. Hey, Hunter, making notes, and he's over on Twitch all by himself. We got to figure out a way to grow that audience over on Twitch, guys, because I've been streaming there for a year and a half now, and I'd love to get more people in, but I've done nothing intentionally to do it. So if anybody's a Twitch expert out there and you're listening, let me know how I can get a little more twitchy. So make one small change every single week, every single time you make a piece of content. And that might be, okay, guess what? This time, that light coming down shined up my shiny old bald head, and it was very distracting to everybody else. So what am I going to do? All right, we're going to move the light in front of me. So What did I start doing? I started turning off all the lights in the office and using just the ring light on the camera. Something simple like that. Or I've told this story a bunch, but it's true. My problems with audio when I was first filming my review videos out in the workshop, and it was awful. I had so much trouble, but every single time I would get mad, I would swear, I would try to figure things out, and finally, it was that damn garage door opener. But whatever you do, always strive to improve every time, because if you're improving, you're going to feel better about what you're doing, and eventually you're going to find that level that brings you up to, it doesn't have to be professional, but you're going to find that level of consistency and quality content that's really going to reverberate with your audience. And it, for some people, it might take 6 months. For me, it's taking 3 years to get here, and you're never ever going to be there, but you're always going to be getting closer. Schedule posts, always have some content in the can. That's another one. So, all right. It is what it is. I don't do a ton of scheduling as far as posts go, but I do schedule my YouTube video. My drop dead, never missed once in 3 years, is my Wednesday 3 p.m. review video on my YouTube channel. So I try to make sure I always have content ready and booked and ready to go. That's for me, that's the way I do it. And it helps take a little bit of the stress off. And I also try to have 1 or 2 episodes recorded for the podcast ahead of time, because when people get used to you putting out content at a specific time, they're going to look for it and they're going to be disappointed. You don't want them to be disappointed. So if I'm going to not have a podcast for a certain day, I try to let people know ahead of time. But tomorrow night normally would be Becky and I's Friday night live, but we're on a mini vacation. So I have a pre-recorded episode that I did with Tori, the Wandering Ma. We did an in-person interview at the Thrivalist Fair. So that will be there for you guys. It'll be it'll be an audio. There will be a video uploaded before too long, but I wanted to have something out there for you guys. Excuse me. Next, constantly promote yourself. And this might feel absolutely weird or disingenuous when you first start, but you're building a brand, and that you are the brand. So you will see lately that I have my boonie hat with my patch on it in all my review videos now, because that is part of my brand. So when people see a video, they're like, oh yeah, there's that weird looking dude that wears that funny hat with the patch on it. They know, right? So packaging what you do in a brand, there's nothing wrong with that. And you want your brand to be out there for everybody to see. So it's going to feel weird when I will save that right there. Haas has a great question that we're going to get to in just a minute. And there's a few things I have done, and we'll talk about it. But so yeah, constantly promote yourself. And here's the thing, it gets easier. And promoting yourself can be in a lot of different ways. But one thing that Nicole taught me early on is you can announce something in a podcast every single week, and people will still say, holy shit, I didn't know you were doing this, or I didn't know you did that. For like the first year and a half I podcasted, I would get people who would message me and say, wow, I didn't know you had a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, well, I literally post a before I go live and an after I go live episode reminder on every platform that people follow me on. And some people still missed it for 18 months. So that's part of it. That's why you need to get better at this. So Backwoods Butcher says, that's been the hardest thing for me. I'm not the person to scream my name from the rooftops, but I'm getting better. I get it. And you don't have to be an asshole about it. You don't have to be one of the guys that does the stupid, surprise pictures or, thumbnails for your YouTube videos. You don't. But you have to figure out what works for you with your personality. But it's just part of it. If you want to put yourself out there and you want to get your message to the most people possible, you have to become comfortable with promoting yourself. That can be going on other podcasts. That can be doing collaborations with other people. That can be sharing your podcast every single day on social media, every episode for 331 episodes, whatever it is. You have to figure out what your version of self-promotion is. And like I said, it doesn't mean you have to be a dickhead about it, but you do have to get comfortable with promoting yourself. It can be merch, it can be giveaways, whatever it happens to be. If you're Josh, it could be stabbing yourself in the leg with a sword on TikTok, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to spread your brand, right? Don't be afraid. Here's the funny thing. I've kind of settled into a few things, but don't be afraid to try new platforms. Quite often I make the excuse that I don't have the time to try these things, and I get it. But a couple of them, for instance, Rumble, I just kind of did a placeholder thing. I posted myself there. I got my stuff automatically bumping over. And then all of a sudden I realized, holy shit, I am getting a ton of followers over on Rumble without even trying. So I said, well, let's give this a shot. And now I stream there every single week. It's funny. I had a memory yesterday on Facebook from a year ago. It was an anti-censorship meme I promoted or shared. And at the bottom, it said joinfloat.com. And it made me laugh because it's a reminder that a lot of the platforms that we're willing to test out, they're not going to work. And that's okay. I don't think Odyssey's ever going to be what they'd hoped it would be. I'm still there because there's a few followers and there's literally zero time cost to me for being there. My stuff automatically goes over with that. And right on, Backwoods Butcher, I want to shout him out right now. Just said, I just downloaded the thumbnail app to put out more professional thumbnails. Absolutely. Watch videos on what makes a professional thumbnail. If you want to go back and watch me, just watch the evolution of how my thumbnails kind of evolved over time. It's kind of funny. And, they're always a work in progress. You'll always find better ways to invent them, improve them, make them better for the audience, but absolutely keep going. So, okay. Now this is one I've changed. So I still hold to it, but I don't hold to it. So here's the thing. What I said a year and a half ago was don't waste time on editing. Now, that's still the case for some things. For long form content, absolutely. For my short-term videos, I actually do way more editing on my review videos than I used to. But I guess what I was saying then and what still sticks is if you're getting new at this sort of thing, if you're starting, don't waste time on editing. Just get in front of the damn camera and start recording things now. If you want to edit a little bit afterwards, but don't ever, ever, ever let perfection get in the way of the good. Because if you're always striving to be perfect, you're never going to do anything, because I don't think anybody's ever perfect, except for my wife, right, hon? Yeah, she said she agreed with me. Everybody knows. So Backwoods Butcher says he's trying to get on every podcast you can. Absolutely. Reach out to every friend you have that has a content creation platform. Figure out a way, if you can get on a Bitcoin podcast to talk about butchering in Bitcoin, whatever it happens to be. But yes, know your Joe. Just start, ... Absolutely. Just do it, right? Here's one that took me a while to do, but it really helps when you find this. And 4 words, you are the only you. And what do I mean by that? I've told this story a bunch and it doesn't change. Certain people will be drawn to your personality. Other people will choose to troll you all the time. That happens. There's no reason for it. They don't like you. They think you're an idiot. That's cool too. Get thick skin. But you are the only you. And most people, when they first start making content, aren't their real self. They haven't found their personality yet, because you get nervous. You turn into this little tiny church mouse behind the camera or behind the microphone, and you're like, well, where do I go? Well, it just takes time. You just need to keep practicing until, this, laid back, sexy, funny guy that you see before you finally comes out and happens, right? That's what really it is. But it takes a while. It was months before, you really got the person that you would get talking to in person right here. And then you kind of develop that radio personality a little bit. I heard, I watched this guy named Simon Dan, and he debunks flat earthers all the time. And he talked about it. He goes, the real me is right here. He said, the YouTube me is right here. So it's about 10% up from what I am. And if you listen to most guys on the radio, it's the same thing. They got that radio voice, right? You have to find your personality for creating content. It's not disingenuous. It's just part of making sure the medium matches the message. And Haas says, I think Brian is on some kind of platform that gets a bunch of different podcasters to interview, but I don't know the name. Yeah, Podmatch. I was going to say I'm on it too, but I've never actually used it yet. So don't let perfection get in the way of getting it done. Trademark, copyright, absolutely. That's the truth. But yes, Podmatch is great, Backwoods. And if you're going to sign up, get Brian's code because he'll get like $5 every month that you stay signed up. So it's really worth it. Yeah, Renegade says he has an affiliate code. There's another thing. Use affiliate codes for everything. This week, a good buddy of mine, Sean Mills, is like, hey, do you have an affiliate code for this was TubeBuddy? So I failed on 2 occasions. Number 1, I didn't have an affiliate code. And number 2, I didn't even realize that they had affiliate codes. So I sent it to him because I don't hate money. And I wanted to give him a shout out for that because you need to know if you're ever talking about a piece of software, if you're ever talking about anything that you endorse or use, look and see if there's an affiliate code because that's another way to make money. Be fucking consistent. Still true today. What more can I say? Don't fill in your days with making content simply because I got to check another box off. But if you just say, I'm going to do it whenever I have time, you're never going to do it. So put that in to start with. You know, if it's once a week, if it's once every 2 weeks, or if it's 3 times a week, whatever you know you can handle. But absolutely make sure that you are consistent. That's all there is. And I would say at least 50% of success in YouTube and probably 90% of success in content in the first year is just being fucking consistent. Show up, do it. Here I am, guys. I mean, I hope I'm trying to model that consistency to you guys. We spent a night in a less than nice hotel last night. We got a nicer one tonight, but all my gear comes with me now. I'm working on perfecting this from the road thing, but I want to be live, So here's the thing. I'm live tonight with you guys. Tomorrow night is a recording for you. Sunday evening, I am going to be co-hosting the Jenny Hill fundraiser with Nicole. I'm going to be doing that from a hotel in Montana. So it's part of it. Figure out the way to be consistent. And what goes part and parcel with that is develop a routine. And something I've learned over the last couple of years, the last year especially, get content done first in the day. Because what I find is those first 2 hours from 6 till 8 o'clock before anybody else is up in the house, before anybody calls me, before any tenant says, hey, Tim, my shitter's full or whatever, those are the golden hours that I can get so much content done. And so I'll do script prep in the morning, but mostly that's my fun time when I go out and I get to play with the gear that people send me or that I've bought, or I get to start doing testing on different things that I get to come back and say, hey, you know what's really cool? This stupid little $20 Amazon. I was going to say Amazon. Where the hell did that come from? The stupid little Amazon tire inflator. It's pretty damn good. And it held its own to the DeWalt. But, that's when I set up and I have my tripod out in my driveway. It's like 6:30 in the morning. I got a tire on the tailgate and my neighbor up the road is heading to work and he gives me kind of a funny look like, what the hell are you doing? And I think in my head, well, you know what I'm doing? I'm living the life I want to live. So there we go. But yeah, develop a routine, guys. Figure out what works. Get it done early. I talked about there's a bunch in here, consistent, routine, and have stuff in the can because all of that sets you up for success long-term. And Haas says, I follow, this is true. I follow several creators that put out weekly. The ones I see putting out non-consistent, I usually forget about them and rarely visit their channels anymore. Absolutely. Here's the thing. I don't want people to ever feel like, no, I do. I want content to be a job for you, but I don't want it to be a burden. If this is something you're absolutely, hey, look who's in here tonight. L2 Survive, a good buddy that I met at Thrivalist. He said, I have to do flashlight videos at 0200 because you can't show them off in the daytime. Exactly. Make the content when you can make the content. So here's the other thing. Figure out the days. Don't kill yourself making content, but you need to absolutely put your heart and soul into it. And so for me, I've said this a few times now, but this Saturday, taking Saturdays off has been a godsend for me, guys. I love it. And do I miss you? Yes. Do I miss I loved having that freedom of that 4th episode a week to bring in all these cool ideas. I am stockpiling them, but you know what I really love? I love having that one day where I know from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, I can work on anything I want without my brain thinking, okay, it's time to come in here and start chatting all the time, right? So that's what it is. You work hard, put stuff out all the time, but build in off time too. And that's what I was doing with my handyman business there for a long time. I was always, for the last 2 years, before I've kind of almost cut that completely out, the last 2 years, I wasn't doing any handyman work on Saturday or Sunday. And you know what? I didn't get any less work and I didn't make any less money. So figure out your schedule and get it done. Backwoods Butcher said, I told all my neighbors I started the channel so they didn't think I'm wandering around talking to myself. You know what? My neighbors probably think that anyway. I'm cool with it. So let's, Haas had a question before I go on to the next list. Excuse me, guys. Said, what do you do, Tim, if you get content blockage? Xlax works. Oh, no, that's the wrong thing, Tim. Shut up. No, so content blockage is a real thing. And what do you do? Okay, I'm going to run through a few different things here for you. I'm going to bring this back up because I made it disappear by mistake. Content blockage can be tough. More fiber, absolutely. So what does more fiber actually mean? There's a lot of things, but you need to figure out a way to loosen up the old brain. So there's a few things. Okay, here's the deal. And I know this is not a brag, but I'll bet you I haven't had a content blockage in 18 months. But early on, I did. The thing that worked the absolute best for me was stream of consciousness. I guess that's what you'd call it. So what I did a couple of times when I just could not come up with an episode or an idea, I was like 2 hours till live time. And I'm like, what in the hell am I going to talk about? So you know what I did? I went down in my office, I turned on my microphone, and I started friggin' talking to myself. And for 10 minutes or so, I just rambled. And I'm like, nah, this ain't working. So I just deleted it. I started over. And whatever I said after 5 or 6 minutes, I finally come up with the idea. I'm like, shit, yeah, that's it. So deleted that one too. Sat down, wrote some scripts, and Bob was your uncle. I come up with a good episode. For me, that's the best way. But that's early on. So a few things you can do early on to help with a content blockage is if you're starting a new channel from scratch, try to plan out your first 10 or 15 pieces of content. So for me, it was really cool. And I got lucky with this because I wasn't thinking, but I made originally a 10-part series. I announced it as a 10-part series, so it kept me accountable as well. But I had the How to Start a Handyman Business with Little to No Money. Awful title, but you know what? It worked. So I had a 10-part series that I knew every single week, I know what I'm going to talk about. But guess what? After 10 weeks, I thought, what am I going to do? So I came up with 3 or 4 more episodes in that series. And then I went on to a How to Deal with Anxiety in Entrepreneurship series, which was pretty cool. And then from there, I started doing tool review videos. But if you're suffering, the first thing you want to do is always write all your ideas down. And I know I've said this 100 times, but there's somebody out there who still hasn't heard it, and you need to hear this. If you're driving, speak it into your phone. If you're laying in bed, write it on a piece of paper. Whatever you absolutely have to do is write down your ideas, because life is busy. I get stressed. I do everything all the time, heading in 100 directions. And I'm not kidding. I can be like this on my phone, and I can scroll down, and all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. I've lost it that fast. So write down anything that and no matter how stupid you think it might be, write it down. That's number one. Another thing is, if you're not sure what to write about or what to talk about or what to record, go watch content. Just watch a ton of it. You can search through YouTube Studios. Right now, I can go in and I can look at my audience, or sorry, not my audience per se, but it could be subscribers, or it could be people similar to my subscribers, and it'll say, hey, they're searching for DeWalt. Or earlier today, I was watching, they're searching for cordless. Anyway, this cool video come up and it said 10 things DeWalt made that you've probably never seen before. Guess what? 2 of them on there were really cool products. that I'm probably going to get my hands on and do reviews on now. So watching other people's content is a great way. Also, if you're watching somebody else's content and you're like, shit, that's pretty good, but you know what? I could do that better. Or remember how I said there's only one you? Well, that person can do that video. You can do that video. And because it's you, some people will listen to you because you have an audience, because you connect with those other people, all of that. So go and watch other people's content and you might get inspired. But write everything down, start talking to yourself, watch other content, and then sometimes just walk the hell away from things. So, the worst thing you can do for a blockage is leave a deadline to the last minute, right? So if you haven't really been given it any thought and all of a sudden you've got a half an hour till you have a live, that might not be the best time to start thinking of ideas. So walk away, 4 or 5 days ahead of time. Just leave it. Let your brain do it, because a ton of my best ideas, a ton of what I do just kind of comes in that background as my brain considers different concepts. Simple as that. I don't know if that helps. I hope it does. But so yeah, for me, listening to podcasts, watching other content, scrolling through YouTube studios, looking at what my quote unquote audience, Hunter wants to know about a script. Yes, I will talk about that in just a minute here. Looking what other people are watching. Write down everything you have. And if all else fails, just start talking to yourself in a microphone or into a camera until you come up with an idea that you absolutely can't live without. And sometimes it takes time. So Hunter says a script. I have gone back and forth on this. So here's the deal. Let's put that up. So do I script? Okay, here's the thing. When I first started, I would script every single word of my videos. So, oh yeah, Renegade, that's great, brother. He just said ChatGPT can help with ideas if you're stuck. ChatGPT is an incredible program, whatever you want to call it, person, individual, non-sentient being. Anyway, whatever it happens to be, it works. It's been great for helping me with some podcast research as well. But you're right, ChatGPT is great. Now, script. Okay, let's go back to, 3 years ago. January, February 2020. So almost 3.5 years ago now when I first started. It would take me a couple of hours to write out a script for a 10 or 15 minute video. That was a lot of work. It was more work than I wanted to put into it. And at one time, I was putting out like 5 videos a week in one podcast, or 4 videos in one podcast. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to switch to more long form content. So anyway, yes, when I first started, I would 100% script everything. And for me, that didn't feel natural. So I went to a more of an outline feature for it. Now, some people, I watch a great guy. His name's Technology Connections on YouTube, and he does deep dives into, well, he recently did a fridge where he bought this weird red fridge, did a whole breakdown on how the interior works, how the defrost works, how miserable it was designed. Anyway, he scripts every single word right down to his reactions, and that's what he does. And that's okay, but that's not for me. So eventually I got to the point where I said, if I want to make more content, longer content, I have to be way more comfortable with ad-libbing. So I started forcing myself to make videos based on a bullet outline. And when I do a presentation, when I do a 45-minute or an hour presentation at a live event, I will script out 99% of that. And for me, a 45-minute to an hour presentation is about an 8-page script. But I will start with that. I'll print the whole thing off, and then I will start presenting that out loud to myself or to my wife. And then eventually I'll turn it into a 1-page outline because I have to be comfortable with the content. So for me, like tonight or anytime I do a podcast, I probably have, so tonight I have 2 pages of notes, and I'm probably not going to make it through all of it. When I do deep dive episodes like my empty container series, or more importantly, the history of modern prepping series, I have like 8 pages of notes, and I go through them faster than I'd go through 2 pages of this, because these are the ones where I allow myself to walk around and talk a little more. even though I'm sitting, you know what I'm saying? But really deep dive historical stuff, I want to make sure my facts are right. So I'm going to have a breakdown for scripts. And Backwoods says, I tried a script and then remembered I read it like a third grader. So that's the thing. The other thing about a full script is it takes a lot longer to become natural with it. So if you just have bullet points, I have right here, like be fucking consistent in parentheses, still true today. That's what I have. And I can turn that into 10 minutes of storytelling based on what I do. So yeah. Do I script? Yes, no, sometimes it depends. When you start out, you might be better off scripting a bit, but eventually you have to figure out what works for you. And for me, it's mostly an outline script unless I'm doing a full presentation, and then that is like modified and polished until perfection. And then I still break it down to an outline. So hopefully that helps. All right. Who else we got here? L2 Survive says, whenever I can't find a video that I search for, I make a video for that. Talk about what you know. Just because you think it's easy doesn't mean others think it's easy. Bingo. And I actually have a whole list in here of how to find ideas when you don't have ideas. And one of them is those exact words. Talk about what you know. If you've got nothing else to talk about a topic you know. And what's better than a topic you know? Yourself. So tell your story. Don't forget. Go back. Here's the other cool thing. If you've been creating content for a year and your audience has gone from 100 to 1,000, guess what? There's 900 people that probably haven't heard your first bit of content. Also, you're not going to teach it the same way you taught it a year ago. Hence why I just went back through this list from a year and a half ago almost, because everything's going to change. So reteaching, retopicing about things that you've already looked at before, never a bad idea. L2 Survive. Talk about the products you own that you think everybody else should know about. Yes. When I first started content creating, there was a guy, Tom, I believe was his name, I'm pretty sure. And he was a big supporter for a long time. And there was a guy, I never got the name of the channel he was talking about, but he said there was a guy that made a metric shit ton of money just going into his garage, picking up a product and talking about something that he uses on a regular basis. It's great. If you have things that you use all the time, talk about them. Don't forget Amazon affiliate links. Also, what I'm starting to find more and more, find the company itself and see if they offer affiliates, because Amazon is kind of that 3 to 4% at the most, whereas direct affiliates with companies can be 8%, 10%, 25% in some cases. So don't leave money on the table. Haas says, Jack used to do outlines with bullet points, but don't know if he still does that. Yeah, I need an outline with bullet points, at least some anyway. I need at least a page to really get going. Renegade says, I do notes, but I can't do scripts. I have to do somewhat freeform or it kills it. Yeah, absolutely. There's a bit of a spontaneity too, right? And Know Your Joe says, better to talk, make a bunch of videos on a variety of subject, or just stick to one. It depends. So here's the thing. Hey, Nate Lemaster, if you want to have a massive, 100,000, 200,000 subscriber YouTube channel, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have to niche down. And that means that you're going to have to get very specific on a topic, because that's just how that works. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't exceptions to the rules, but I've told people this for a couple of years. The main reason I started the podcast was because if all I did was do tool review videos for the rest of my life, I would get burnout and couldn't stand it. I have 1,000 things I want to talk about, and that's the cool thing about building a community. As long as you don't break the community's trust and you're passionate about a topic, there's a good chance that a lot of people are going to listen to you talk about that topic. So if it's a longer form, if it's something for your community, then you've got a lot of leeway. If you're specifically trying to build a YouTube, say, review channel or how-to channel, whatever it happens to be, if you want to find that massive growth, then you need to be very kind of specific in what you're doing. The guys that are the biggest on YouTube have found a formula and replicate it week in and week out. I don't know if I could always do that. So that's why I'm trying to separate things a little bit more. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do, but if you go to my YouTube channel right now, I've really streamlined it to be almost exclusively a review channel, mostly around generators, backup power, and DeWalt stuff. And that seems to be my bread and butter niche that makes me the most money on YouTube. But if you tune into the Workshop Radio, you're going to get to hear things about content creation, poverty mindset, entrepreneurship, handyman business, popular culture, and everything else in between. And I get to interview some of the coolest people in the world, and I love it. So I needed to have some freedom. Again, it's a big it depends, but if you want to go massive for just YouTube or TikTok or whatever, you got to niche down. You have to. There's no way to get around it. But if you want to do, the podcast, whatever. And here's the other thing. You don't have to be massive to make an income or to make a living off this, because, I've got 8,300 subscribers right now, and I'm pretty close to making an income from this. So you don't have to be Mr. Beast or PewDiePie. I don't know, whatever they are. You don't have to be that guy to make thousands and thousands from content, but it helps. And the other thing is, as you build a following and build a community, you can branch out a little bit and get into some things that maybe you wouldn't talk about otherwise. Backwoods says animal plus time lapse plus blood has been working pretty well. Here's the other thing. Somebody asked earlier, Haas did, what do you do if your content blocked? Well, one of the big things you can do is what's worked for me before. Look at your channel, look at your top trending video, and do more content based on that. There's a reason I have 5 videos based around the tri-fuel Furman generator, because I love talking about it and because it makes money and people watch it. Nate says, that's the issue I find. I want to jump on YouTube and do content, but I have a hard time picking a small number of stuff to keep it consistent. It's tough. It is. It doesn't mean it's easy or simple. But the cool thing is, don't let it get you into analysis paralysis and think, well, since I don't have an idea, or let me back up here. So the whole analysis paralysis thing is, if you sit around and think about, well, should I do this or shouldn't I? Just do it. Because the cool thing is, if you create something or make something and people don't watch it, you're going to be like, oh, well, I learned from that. I'll do something different later on, right? So just don't let it get you to the point where you can't or aren't willing to do anything. There are some guys that have serious coin on their channel. And the thing is, everybody starts out the same. That's the cool thing about YouTube, is we all get to start at zero, and we all get to build. We all get to come at it with our own personality, our own voice, our own polish or not polish, everything we're passionate about. And so when we come back from that, that's where we get to build. And the kind of cool thing about content is it's a slow crawl, but if you're willing to stick with it and you're willing to do the few things that really matter, you will find success. You just need to know what your definition of that success is, for sure. So, okay, I wrote down 10 things that are truer now than they ever were before for me, but it's actually 12 things. So you know how it is. But okay, so the first thing that I'm dealing with, and a lot of what I'm dealing with right now, for what it's worth, is YouTube videos, because I've been doing this deep dive into TubeBuddy lately. So, but you can take it and use it however you want. But the absolute dead most important statistic in YouTube is click-through rate. Now, there's more to that, but click-through rate is, you have impressions, you have click-through rate, and then you have views. So impressions are your video shows up in somebody's recommended feed right there. So their eyeballs have a chance to see that. That's considered an impression. You're going to probably get 10 times the impressions that you get views. So you want to get it in front of more eyeballs. And of course, your click-through rate is the percentage. Actually, so it's not even 10%. It's more like, for me, it's about 6% is my going click-through rate. You can have a lot better, you can have a lot worse, but I've always been happy when I hit 6%. That is the dead most important thing. Now, you can inflate that artificially by doing clickbaity titles and clickbaity thumbnails. Now, here's the thing. Clickbait in and of itself is not wrong if you deliver on that. If you say, I'm going to blow up a vehicle, and you don't blow up a vehicle, well, then your audience is going to lose faith in you. But if you say, holy cow, check out this video this vehicle I blew up, and you do it, that's okay too. So anyway, but click-through rate is the thing that absolutely most matters, because that's the thing that's going to drive more views to you. And that's exactly, Know Your Joe says, can't get the views if you can't get them to click on the video. Now, of course, after that, it's viewer retention. You want to keep people watching. You know, if you have more than 50% of people watching still at 30 seconds, you're doing pretty damn good. And then you watch for where it to flatline. And if it flatlines, that means the majority of people are watching it the majority of the time. But beyond anything else, you need to spend time figuring out how to get people to click on your content, because everybody's creating content. You need to find a way to make that thumbnail, that title, and that topic shiny enough for everyone else to want to click on. Yep, exactly. Nate Lemaster says, so many channels with some clickbait titles never follow through. I seen one the other day that said the lady, I can't remember her name right now, got fired from the new Harrison Ford Indiana Jones film. I clicked on it. I watched like 6 minutes of it, and then I start reading the comments. Yeah, it didn't happen. So, boo. I'm never going to subscribe to that guy, because the dude put a lie in his thumbnail. And if you lie in your thumbnails or you lie in your titles, people are going to remember it. They're going to get pissed off. They're going to hit the thumbs down, leave a negative comment, or worse than that, they're going to ignore you altogether. Does it matter how long people watch? Yes, average view duration is important, but mainly because the longer people watch, the more ads people watch, and the more money you and YouTube are going to make from that. So that's really, and the YouTube algorithm is 100% designed to keep people on YouTube. So if people watch your videos and they stick with them for a long time, YouTube is way more likely to recommend your videos, more of your videos, to that same person so that they binge your stuff. So yes, watch time does matter. There's lots of, maybe I'll make a list of the 10 YouTube statistics that matter the most, but watch time matters. But beyond anything else, if you can't get people to click on your shit, nobody's going to watch it. So yeah. So thumbnail and title, come up with a concept, and then find that hole like I showed you last week with TubeBuddy on where to plug it in so that people know, oh yeah, that is really good. I should watch that. All right. So 12 things I wrote down that are just as important today as they were a year and a half ago. And so do thumbs down affect the promotion of the video? Okay. Yes and no. Basically, I mean, truthfully, yes. So here's the thing. If somebody watches your video and gives it a thumbs down, that's kind of like saying that video didn't go to the right person because they weren't the right person. So YouTube wants to feed your content to the right people. And if the right people find your shit, they're going to want to watch it. They're going to want to support you. So if somebody does a thumbs down, they're going to stop serving your content or your type of content to that person and to anyone else that the algorithm says is like that person, if that makes sense. Yes, L2 Survive says interviewing interesting people and collaborations with other content creators all the time. That's the other thing, promoting yourself. I've talked about that earlier. Don't be afraid to promote yourself. Getting on other people's podcasts is great, but also interviewing other people on your podcast is just as important, because I mean, could you get on 52 podcasts in a year? Yeah, you could, but you know what else you can do? You can bring 52 guests onto your podcast just as easily. So that's a way to do it. And yes, Jason from Kentucky Sustainable Living says, I like doing lives and interviewing people. Lives are my favorite. And you're kicking ass at that, man. And it's cool because we have all these people in these surrounding communities doing these interviews. And the cool thing is, nobody ever runs out of guests because there's always interesting people in this world to interview. L2 Survive says, super chats. Yep, I got to get better at promoting super chats because I don't always do it. And it's worth saying, hey, if what I did gives you value, then hit the like, hit the super chat, whatever you want, because value for value, right, guys? Okay, talked about this before, but it's just as important. Consistency is king. We talked about it. We don't have to cover it again. Number 2, and I'm going to talk about this all the time, but here it is. Build a community, not a channel. And we talked about it because if you build a channel, you'll have viewers. You'll have people that'll tune in and want to watch. But if you build a community, you're going to have people who, when and if you need help, are going to help you. You're going to have people who, if like Jenny, you're diagnosed with cancer, people are going to put together a GoFundMe. Or if you're Sean Mills and you're doing a Kickstarter because you're ready to take the plunge and start your own business, guess what? You're going to hit goal after goal after goal because you've helped people, you've built community, you've given them value, and other people want to return that in exchange. So if you build a channel and you get a bunch of viewers and they want to sit and watch your shit once in a while, cool. But that's not going to pay the bills. Building a community pays all the bills. It checks all the right boxes. People will support you financially, but more importantly, they'll support you as friends. They'll support you if times get tough. And they're the type of people that you don't even need to ask. They'll just share your shit because that's what happens. And that's what you do. I've done that for Nicole and Jack and Brian and Josh and hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds, but lots of other people that I'm part of their extended community. And because of that, I want other people to be part of that community too. It's like evangelizing, but without some of the other stuff. Here is my biggest lesson that I've learned over the last 2 years in content, and it's get to the point immediately. Tell me what the hell you're going to do. Now, podcasting's different, but I still try to say, hey, tonight we're going to do content creation, 20 tips or whatever. Then I go to the announcements, then we do everything. But if you're doing a 6 or 7 minute YouTube video, if you don't tell me in those first 10 seconds what the hell I'm here listening for, there's a good chance I'm clicking off. So if you want to hook people early on in your content, you want to say, hey guys, today we're going to take a 12-volt compressor and we're going to fill up a tire and see if it's every bit as fast as that $150 DeWalt right there. And you guys know exactly what I'm going to give you in the video. And hopefully people are going to watch it. But if they were there and that's not what they wanted, then they're probably going to click off. But the thing is, if you made the right thumbnail and the right title, they probably already know. But make a promise in the first 10 to 15 seconds of your video and then deliver on that promise. Here's the next one. This is something that I picked up from, channel makers on YouTube. He doesn't even ask for subscribers. He asks people to boop the like button, but he doesn't ask it until the 3rd quarter of the video. Something I've started doing. Here's the thing. Ask for subscribers closer to the end of the video. You need to ask. You need to say, hey, if you like this, whatever. For me, lately, it's been, hey, if you're still here at the end of the video, that means I made this video for you. And if I did and you liked it and you want more of it, hit the subscribe button. But if you spend the first 15 to 30 seconds saying, hey, I'm here. This is my channel. Like the video, subscribe. You're losing all that momentum. And the other thing is you might be asking people to subscribe that aren't going to like your content. So they might hit the subscribe button because you asked. They may never watch a video again. But if you wait till people get into 3 or 4 or 5 minutes of your video and they like it and they're still there, then they're the people that you want to build a community around. Renegade says, the hook is like the follow-up to the clickbait. Deliver on both and you get followers. Exactly. Make a promise. Really, here's the deal. You make a promise with a thumbnail, you make a promise with a title, and you make a promise with the hook. And if you deliver on that promise and not too much filler in between, you're going to do pretty good with it. All right. Yeah, like I said, save asking about the sub or promotion until near the end. That's my new recommendation. Don't be afraid to reach out to companies, brands, etc. Early on, you might say, oh my God, I've got 17 subscribers. They're never going to let me be an affiliate. Guess what? You don't know until you ask. You might get turned down by 10 companies, but you're going to find some that are, oh yeah, no, we literally accept anybody. And you're going to get pretty damn excited if you get your first affiliate sale on some review video you did. So don't be afraid to reach out, because if you wait, you're going to miss out on some opportunities. And The cool thing is only one company has to say yes. You might get turned down 30 times, but you're going to learn how to ask yes by getting turned down 30 times. Simple and concise is almost always better, but simple takes work. Here's the thing. When I used to do a tool review video at 15 minutes, there was probably less content in my videos than there are at my 6 and 7 minute review videos now. I try to keep my review videos under 10 minutes because I think they're the most digestible and they're most likely to be clicked on. And I've worked really hard to cut out the fat, but it takes more work to do that. You have to plan ahead of time and all of that. So for me, if I'm trying to get somebody to bite on a video, simple and concise is better. Know your Joe? I will hold on to that question for just a minute. Asking about trolls. They like to live under the bridge. We should try to leave them there. Number 7, don't compare yourself to others, but you're still going to compare yourself to others. And that's okay. But don't let yourself get down. Don't look at other people. I've done it. There's some creators who started at the same time as me, some who aren't doing this at all, some who have 4 times as many subscribers as me. Doesn't matter because you're building a community. You're not building a subscriber count. So 100% do your best not to compare yourself to others. It's okay to look at other people and say, hey, yeah, I'd like to do that, or I don't like what they're doing, so I'm going to do this better. But do your best not to get down on yourself because you need to know what your definition of success is. So you need to be internally driven. So don't be looking at other people and say, damn it, they're doing better. I guess I should give up, because that's not the case. Find creators, channels that are succeeding and model after them. For me, I've got 5 or 6 channels that I watch religiously. They're very similar to what I put out. Guys that have, 6, 7, 800,000 subscribers. If you want to be that channel, model yourself after those type of channels. Watch what they do and learn from them. I mean, if they're doing something you don't agree with, don't do it, but learn from them. I'm going to save, Renegade. Turn them into promotional opportunities. Trolls hate that. I get mine to block me. Yep. We'll talk about that in a minute too. Absolutely. Know Your Joe has another question here. I will come back to that one in just a second. Number 9, develop a clear and simple brand early on, but it's also okay to change your brand a little bit. My YouTube channel, when it very first started, was the all seasons maintenance handyman channel. That lasted for a while, but that wasn't the brand. I was Toolman Tim, so eventually I started doing tool review videos, and I really think it might've been Jack who called me Tim the Toolman at first. And I was like, I think I'm going to go with Toolman Tim because I don't want to infringe on copyrights or anything. And then I would talk about hanging out in the workshop. So that brand came along. And so I've kind of, you build your brand as you go along, but figure it out. Make it simple, make it identifiable, make it be that thing that if people are scrolling through on TikTok and they see you, they're like, I might not know your name, but I know that crazy dude, that sort of thing. But develop a brand so that everything else kind of is modeled around that. I'd be willing to entertain any idea, no matter how crazy, but also be ruthless about eliminating things that aren't working. So it's okay to try something different. It's okay to try new concepts. If they work, great, that's exciting. But the things that aren't working, don't be afraid to get rid of them. Because when I first started talking about eliminating things like I was doing Toolbox Tuesday, Money Making Monday, those things were just placeholders. I was just making them. I was getting 10 or 15 views. They had 0 life after they were made, all of that. So eventually I had to realize they're not working. I need to cut them out. But you know what is working? My tool review videos and my podcast. So guess what I started making more of? That. Because when you find the thing that's working, do more of it. And when you find the thing that isn't working, cut that out of your life and leave it on the garbage heap for sure. You can do a lot with a little bit. And up until this year, that was 100% my motto. Now I have, I have upgraded to some more expensive gear, but you can run an entire channel off an iPhone and a cordless mic for many, many years. And that's all you need. Up until 6 months ago, I had done 100% of my editing on my iPhone. You don't need a lot, a tripod and a $40 cordless mic, and you can create content that will rival some of the best on YouTube. That's all you need. You can get more as time goes on, but that's really all you need. And my last thought is subscriber counts don't matter until they do, unless they do. Now, stick with me, because the thing about a subscriber count is it's just a number on a piece of paper. It's prestige. It's clout, as the Gen Zs like to talk about. So again, you're building a community. You have to figure out, Renegade says you can even do it with an iPhone. Absolutely. But you need to figure out what your definition of success is. And if it's tied to subscriber count, you're never going to be happy. Now, subscriber count matters when you're shooting to get monetized on YouTube. So when you hit 1,000 subscribers, cool. Once you've got past 1,000, really doesn't matter all that much. It may matter to some companies who are reaching out to you and say, hey, we'd like to sponsor you, or we'd like to send you a product, but don't get caught up in that number, because that is probably one of the numbers that means the least on YouTube, but for some reason people pay the most attention to. You can literally buy subscribers from like Chinese clickbait farms that will just pay people to subscribe to your channel. So if you want them, you can get them, but don't worry about that a whole lot. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions here. Let's see what we got. Okay, so Know Your Joe says, how do you deal with trolls in the comments? There's a few things. Sometimes I will sick my wife and my daughters on them because it's fun, right, hun? They're pretty good. TikTok can be really mean sometimes, so you got to get used to it. You don't always. There's still times that it bugs me. I try not to. I tell everybody else, don't let it bother you, but it's going to bother you once in a while. But just don't let it bother you that much if you can help it. So what do I do with trolls? My favorite thing is to do the John Willis method. 100% stole this from him, but he told me about it, and I'm like, holy shit, this works. Monetize trolls. There's two things you can do with trolls. You can either ignore them, and most times they'll go away because they're useless. They're, some loser living in his mother's basement, sipping on Mountain Dew and wiping the Dorito crumbs off his face while he's like, yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write this comment because he's going to think it's funny. Just ignore them if you can help it, because they're trolls. So if you ignore them, eventually they're going to disappear and go away. But if you want to have fun with them, turn them into a promotional discount. I've had a lot of fun with that. I think I've picked 2 so far in the last year, just absolute asshole comments. And I think I've picked up 4 subscribers in the Patch of the Month Club because of those 2 idiots. So that's made me $400 in a year because I took 10 minutes to make a short video using that person. Now be careful, because you don't want to slide into bullying or harassing, because if you do, you can end up getting, checkmarked or kicked off of YouTube or any whatever platform you're using. So what I would say is, honestly, your best bet is to just ignore them. Delete them. If somebody is constantly leaving shitty messages on your channel, you can block them from seeing your channel. So go in, click on their name and say, no longer seen on this channel, something like that. So don't let them occupy space in your brain if you can help it. But if you feel like it and you're in an extra pissy mood, then turn them into a discount code and make money off them. And then tell them about it, because that's really fun. I'll go back here for a minute. And Renegade says, I find TikTok, I very rarely get trolls, but YouTube Shorts is an absolute shit show. And yeah, it's not always, it's whatever it is. Renegade says, I even made a t-shirt based on a Noster troll. He went away. It's all we can do. You can either call them out on their shit or you can ignore them. And either way can be pretty fun. And okay, next question from Know Your Joe. Do you get more views than you have subscribers typically, or the other way around? Typically way less views up front than subscribers. If I have, right now, I've got 8,000 subscribers, and if I have a pretty good trending video, I might get 100 views in the first day. But my channel's set up different. My live streams, if it's a really good live stream, might get 200 views on the total replay, and that's okay. That's part of it. But long term, my channel is more of a search-based channel. So my stuff exists there. I'm trying to make it more digestible for other people, but it makes 95% of its views from people saying, hey, I want to know about this tri-fuel generator. So they go and they look for it and that sort of thing, right? L2 Survive, where was that? Right there. Said, the more equipment you use, the longer it takes to make the content. I did a live stream recently with a phone and it took 2 hours and done. Exactly. And the more content or the more equipment you have, the more things can go wrong. You know, I went and filmed a video the other day. I love that beautiful, the wireless Go 2 mic from Rode that I have. It's cool. It's nice. I didn't turn the mute off. I recorded like 15 minutes of video and didn't have any audio to show for it. The crazy thing is that mic has built-in audio as well. So if it doesn't record on the phone, it will still record internally, except if you have it on mute. So there's that. L2 Survive says, I also recorded with 4 cameras, 4 audio tracks, and B-roll. That'll take more than 30 hours to edit. Exactly. So just know that the more stuff you take with you, the higher your production value is going to be, or you want it to be, the more work on the back end it can be, but it can also have more opportunities to go wrong. But as preppers, 2 is 1, 1 is none. So I do love the idea of multiple cameras and multiple microphones, because like last year at Prepper Camp, when I interviewed 5 times August, when the interview was done and I had no audio, yep. So from now on, I try to have multiple ways of doing this. So there's that. But yeah, so those are my thoughts this evening, guys. That's kind of, I'll do another one of these down the road. You guys have more questions, send them along. But I've just been digging so deep into the analytics side of things that I thought it was really worth doing a 2-week deep dive into content creation, because there's so many content creators out there. I even toyed with the idea of updating last year's presentation and representing that at Self-Reliance Festival, but it's not going to happen this year. But what I would love to do at some point is some sort of, I don't even know what to call it, but I'd love to get together a bunch of content creators in the homesteading, self-reliance, prepper sphere that are making money at content, and doing some sort of super group where maybe we can, I don't know. I don't even know exactly what it's going to be, but it would be a lot of fun to put that together and have some sort of paid access where we can, where people can meet. I thought about doing it within Self-Reliance Festival. It won't happen this year, but I'd love to have where we could have a round table where people can bring in their questions and they can say, hey, what can I do to improve this? And I would love to do that. So I appreciate you folks. It was great to have you in here too tonight, L2 Survive. We get to sit around and drink bourbon together. So that was fun, but it was nice to see you in here this evening. So with that, guys, what do we got for you coming up? Like I said, tomorrow will be a recorded episode with Tori that I did at the Thrivalist Fair. No episode Saturday, as you know. So I'm going to be enjoying the rest of this vacation, except tomorrow morning at 8:30. Think about me, because I'm going to the dentist. Really, it's not that bad. It's just a cleaning and x-rays or whatever. But anyway. So it's always good. I appreciate you guys. This was fun. I can't wait. You'll be getting a lot of this in 6-7 weeks. About 6 weeks, I'm heading straight south to Tennessee. So for the better part of 2 months, this will be my studio. So I'm trying to, work all the kinks out of it. And maybe I can figure out a way to have a black background that I can take with me. That's the only thing I'm missing, is the black background. If I can have that, you wouldn't even be able to tell I was on the road, except that I'll tell you, because there is what it is. So, oh yes, and Sunday evening, guys, you'll see it. It's booked in on my channel, Nicole's channel, and it will be on Jack's channel. We'll be doing the PBS style telethon for Jenny Hill. And with that, as always, and see you, Moon Bear. You're welcome for the motivation. Stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.